All right, let's talk about something that's, well, a little wild when you really think about it. The invisible traps our own minds set for us. Let's get right into it.
You know that feeling, right? When you make a decision and you just know it's not the right one, or you get stuck in this loop you can't seem to break out of. It's not just you, I promise. This is a totally universal human thing, and today we're going to put a name to it.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll look at three big categories. First, the traps our minds set around the past and the future. Second, how our own perception and biases can warp reality. And finally, the really clever stories we tell ourselves to feel okay about our choices. Okay, first up, let's dive into how our relationship with time, what we've already done and what we think is gonna happen, can seriously lead us astray. Okay, so picture this. Maybe you went to law school, you racked up six figures in debt, you landed a job at a big firm, and you absolutely hate it. I mean, the work is just soul crushing. But the idea of leaving, it feels impossible. That, my friends, is the sunk cost fallacy. And this right here, this is the voice in your head. I worked too hard to give this up. It's such a powerful thought, but it completely confuses past effort with future obligation. Here's the kicker. The cost is already paid. It's sunk. Staying miserable doesn't get you a refund. It's like you're just adding interest to a bad loan. Quitting isn't wasting your investment. It's using what you learned to stop digging a deeper hole. Now, this next one is really something. Imagine a dog in a cage, and every time it tries to escape, it gets a little shock. So after a while, it just lies down. It gives up. Now, what do you think happens when someone leaves the door wide open? The dog stays put. It has learned to be helpless. We do the exact same thing after a few failed job interviews or some awkward dates. We just tell ourselves, well, I'm just not good at this, and we stop trying. But here's the way out, and this is what's so cool. It's not about actually being powerless, it's about feeling powerless. The antidote? You have to test the lock. You have to try again. You gotta be willing to fail forward. Because once you realize the shocks have stopped, and they have, you're no longer the dog in the cage. The door was open the entire time. All right, let's head to a casino. Picture a roulette table. The ball has landed on red 5 times in a row. A buzz goes through the crowd, right? People are whispering black is due. It has to be black. So you bet big on black, and wouldn't you know it, it's red again. That, right there, is the gambler's fallacy. It's our brain desperately trying to create a story out of pure random chaos. So here's the core of it. We see it like the universe is keeping score, like it owes us some kind of fairness, that a win is due. But the reality? Every single spin, every single event is completely independent. Chaos has no memory. You're not due for anything. You're just trying to read a story into something that has no plot. Okay, let's move on to our next section, which builds on this idea. Now we're going to look at the filters our brains use, the ones that don't just misread the past or future, but actually distort what's happening right now. Oh, this one is a biggie. Confirmation bias. It's basically building yourself an echo chamber of doom. Let's say you believe coffee is good for you. What do you Google? Is coffee healthy? And of course, the first article confirms it, and you feel smart, you feel validated. You didn't search for the truth, you searched for confirmation. Your brain's favorite trick isn't asking what's accurate, it's asking what makes me feel right. And the solution? It's so simple, but it's also pretty radical. Instead of always looking for validation, ask yourself a totally different question. How would I know if I was wrong? Go out and actively look for the opposing view. Look, the truth isn't always comfortable, and honestly, that's often how you know it's the real deal. Okay, so this next trap, it's basically an ancient overactive alarm system. Your brain is a threat detection machine. It was designed for a time when ignoring one little rustle in the bushes could get you eaten by a tiger. The problem is, now, that same instinct treats a critical comment on your presentation like it's a tiger. And this shows you exactly what happens. 10 people can praise your work, but one person says, it's okay. And which comment keeps you up at night? Exactly. One bad review just hits so much harder than 10 good ones. Your brain isn't being realistic here. It's being hijacked by its own biology. All right, the halo effect. Have you ever met someone who's just incredibly charismatic and charming? Your brain immediately takes a shortcut. It just assumes that because they have this one great quality, they must also be smart,
kind, and trustworthy. This is exactly how con artists operate. They start with one little beam of light, and your brain just fills in the rest of the glowing halo for them.
Luckily, the fix for this is pretty straightforward, even if it isn't always easy to do in the moment. See, your brain loves speed, but these mental shortcuts often skip right past the truth. You have to consciously make yourself slow down, ask more questions, and just remember that shiny is not the same thing as good.
And that brings us to our final section, the stories we tell ourselves. This is all about how we rationalize our own actions to feel comfortable and consistent with the choices we've made.
You know this one. You promised yourself, tonight I'm going to bed early. But then, Netflix pops up that little question, watch one more episode, and suddenly it's midnight. That is hyperbolic discounting in action. Your brain sees now as real and solid, but later feels foggy and abstract. So present you almost always beats future you in a fight. And what's so interesting here is the trade-off. I mean, in theory, a larger reward later is obviously the better choice. We all know that. But your brain dramatically discounts the value of that future reward. It's not that you're lazy, you're just wired for short-term survival, not necessarily for long-term planning. Okay, let's say you see yourself as a really good, thoughtful person, but you just ghosted someone who trusted you. You feel that little mental itch you just can't scratch? That is cognitive dissonance. It's that intense tension that sparks when your actions and your identity just don't line up. And your brain absolutely hates this tension, so it rushes to fix it. But the key here is how it fixes it. It usually doesn't change your behavior. Oh no, that's too hard. Instead, it just changes the story. You tell yourself, well, they were being too clingy anyway. And poof, just like that, you're not a ghoster anymore. You're a justified escape artist. So to catch yourself in this trap, you just have to pause and ask this really simple but profound question. Am I acting like the person I actually want to be? Or am I just telling myself a convenient story to feel better right now? And that really brings us to the most important takeaway of this whole explainer. Look, we all fall into these traps. Every single one of us. The point isn't to become some perfect, flawless, robotic thinker. The goal is much simpler. It's just to be aware, to be awake to the clever little tricks your own mind is playing on you. So, as you go about your day today, I'll leave you with this thought. Now that you know what to look for, which one of these mind traps are you going to notice first? Thanks for tuning in.